This is the Original Sin, the Collective Intelligence Network.
And welcome to another episode on the Collective Intelligence Network. My name is Stephen Copeland. Welcome all my sinners, Collective Intelligence Network agents. Now, in today's episode, I'd like to talk about an idea that I discussed with a client some years back, and it's still relevant. It had to do with the position he held. He worked for a big newspaper publication, and I'm mindful that in this current climate, newspapers aren't as popular as what they used to be. However, that said, I believe that newspapers are a massive resource, and what I mean by that is I had projected and conjectured that a possibility for historical newspapers, it doesn't matter how long ago they were printed, but what effectively you could do is that a newspaper would run the headline on the day of some major event or catastrophe that had actually occurred, and or other life events, and this holds true for no matter where you are in the world. So this concept could work anywhere. And so I guess if you're a filmmaker or someone who's looking at ideas for films or productions in terms of stories and that sort of thing, then a lot of times, as I say, Struth. Well, people do say Struth, mainly in Australia probably. But a lot of times there is a lot of a saying in terms of truth is stranger than fiction. And so in this regard, I believe you could go to newspapers, historical newspapers, and just go through and find big stories of the day. For instance, back in 1912, a big one obviously was the sinking of the Titanic, even though there are some stories around the veracity of what actually really happened. For further information, perhaps you might want to look into conspiracy theories around the sinking of the Titanic. And I've heard some things which make you go, such as there was a lot of very wealthy people are on board that ship at the time. There was a particular institution that was against what those particular people wanted to make happen in the American economy. Submarines had only just been invented and torpedoes. Icebergs at that time of year aren't really around, especially of that size in that area, 50 miles off the coast of New York. The captain apparently had $50,000 deposited into his account 3 days before he set sail, and he had terminal face cancer. This is what I heard. I haven't fact-checked it all. You sinners out there can go out and have a look into it all, but I digress. That's just another example of a story, and look how many stories there are within that one story. And yes, so as I was saying, you can go through the history of newspapers around the world, in America, in Australia, in the UK, in Japan, wherever, and come up and find stories that were reported back in the day, 1800s, 1700s, 1900s, 20th century, 21st century. So it's a rich resource of information in terms of things you could historically acquire and then base it on a true story and come up with your own interpretation of that. And given where we are with the development of AI and things like Sora.ai and those sorts of things, where a whole lot of other programs that are coming out as I speak and will develop and evolve in the not too distant future, so that what I'm telling you now potentially could be an intersect or a joining of these stories and these potential artificial intelligence platforms that could create the characters and even help write the plot lines and the stories, depending again on how much you want to be involved with it. And I guess this is a bit of a fracture in society in terms of, are we giving away our creative output? And the writers' strike in America, for example, was partly, I believe, to do with this whole thing that we're all coming up against, I guess, in some respects. Not that I'm trying to make it an adversarial sort of thing. I really think that AI is something that we should be leaning into in terms of using it as a tool. Effectively, at the end of the day, it is an algorithm, and it's prompted by the questions that you actually ask it. And so in that regard, it's not so much thinking for itself, it's going back and looking through its database of information, which still needs to be vetted by human eyes to look for any discrepancies or flaws that are actually contained within that. Obviously, as time evolves, it's getting better and it's improving. However, I believe by having the right partnership between humans and the opportunities that AI can present for us, then what I'm merely illuminating today is the opportunity that exists to go through historical articles in newspapers and magazines, etc., and look for really interesting sort of stories that can be retold in a new way. And our community out there of network collective intelligence network agents can perhaps be part of that. And as I've mentioned before, potentially this can be a platform that can be used to help promote and distribute those sorts of ideas and narratives and stories and films and documentaries, etc., that you'd like to make. But hit me up in the comments section, the Spittoon. Let us know what your thoughts are on this. Solve the problem with individual thought. And then we'll spat something back in terms of solve the problem altogether. Then we'll put it into our SAINT, which is our suggested artificial intelligence network thoughts, and collectively in this church, which is cyborg humans using reasoning collectively harnessed, we'll come up with things that we can take forward with us all collectively once this community gets built, as I'm sure it eventually will, even though it's hard to see it at the moment, given the, I think I've got a total of, let me count them all on. I can't count them on one hand, count them on two. 6 subscribers so far. So look, thank you very much to those 6 who are out there. I love you very much. Thank you. And the more, the merrier. Please become a sinner. We need more sinners. And on that note, I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.